He smelled the ham, he got excited is the 10th episode of the 6th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by Jeff Melman, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And this one starts at Evelyn's. Everybody's around the dinner table. Evelyn, Alan, Charlie and Jake. And they don't know why Evelyn has invited them there. But we find out quite quickly. She says that she's been doing some financial planning. And Charlie assumes that means that she's thinking about dying, to which Evelyn responds, I promise to stick around long enough to identify your bloated, gin-soaked, syphilitic remains. Which, I have to say, was a pretty great description. And it turns out that Evelyn's actually done something really lovely. She's set up a trust fund for Jake to go to college. And initially Jake doesn't care. To him that just means more school. And then she says that if his grades go up by the time he goes to college, maybe she'll buy him a car. And suddenly he's very enthusiastic about this. Alan is, in the next scene, he's standing by the front door. And I've seen this episode before, but a very long time ago. So I couldn't remember exactly what he was doing. But he was standing by the front door, just standing. And Charlie approaches him and Alan explains he doesn't really know why he should bother going to work anymore. Because he doesn't pay rent. And he doesn't need to put money aside for Jake's college because Evelyn has very kindly sorted that out. So he's trying to work out why he should go. And Charlie suggests, for your self-respect. To which Alan responds, no, Judith got that in the divorce, which I rather liked. And Alan finally goes to work and Jake is on the phone with Evelyn. He's still really excited about this car. Not really focusing on the college aspect, but very excited about the car. And decides he's going to go over to Evelyn's. I don't love the fact that Jake is only going over because he's getting something from her. But I think from Evelyn's perspective, she gets to spend time with her grandson and also encourages him to go to college. So I guess for her, it's a bit of a win-win situation. And we're then with Alan at work. He's with a patient and we have a little bit of a conversation with the patient. The patient then farts. It's apparently very stinky and Alan just leaves. He doesn't need to deal with this. And Kelly also goes to see the patient and immediately scurries out afterwards. So apparently it was bad. We're then in the car with Jake and Evelyn, and this scene I could remember really well. I absolutely love this scene. Not necessarily because it's particularly funny, but I think it's really, really sweet because she and Jake are talking, trying to help Jake work out what it is he wants to do with his life. And they eventually realise that Jake loves to cook. And that's because he loves to eat. And he decides, yeah, I'll become a chef. And it's a really lovely moment. And what I love about this is that I think everybody has something that they can do for work that they love. Yes, okay, there are going to be some people in life who just refuse to work, who don't want to work, who think that every job is boring. But as we see with Jake, there is something he is passionate about. And if he can turn that into a career, every day will feel like a good day, in theory. And I really love that message. I love that for most people, there is something they can turn into a career and they can enjoy going to work. And for Jake, maybe we found it. Alan then comes home with a kayak because life is too short, so he's going kayaking. And he breaks the glass door, which I did see coming. I didn't see it coming the second time, and I did find that very amusing. Jake is then at Evelyn's, and I love this scene as well. He's creating this food for her, and he really seems to know what he's talking about. He really seems to really care about what he's created, and it's really lovely. And then he set the kitchen on fire. But before that moment, we get a great exchange where he gives the food to Evelyn and says, bon appetit, to which Evelyn responds, teat. And Jake's reply, no, that's a cow's boob. I rather enjoyed that. It's a great scene. Really, really very well done. And Alan then comes back from kayaking after 15 minutes, and he and Charlie decide that Evelyn's driving force behind the trust fund for Jake is that she's trying to kill Alan by giving him no reason to live. And ultimately, with the final scene, it's a really great final scene, Charlie gives Alan a reason to go back to work, and that's that he starts charging him rent. And he hands Alan a piece of paper with the price of rent, and initially I thought Alan was going to really pull back from this, but actually he thought, it's been 5 years, I will pay for some rent. And he's okay with it, and he also said, at least I'll get a say about what goes on around here. And Charlie says, no, if you want a say, you have to pay this amount, and hands him another figure. Alan realises he doesn't have to have a say, but he does try to push back on paying rent. And he says, well, we can start next month. Well, actually, it's the holidays. We'll start in the new year. And he's coming up with all of these reasons for not paying rent, which was a little more believable than his initial response. And Charlie had said that the rent was the carrot for going to work. And I don't think anybody sees the rent as being a carrot in any situation. But that's the carrot. And the stick is that if Alan doesn't pay rent, Charlie can hit him with a stick. And while Alan's coming up with all of these reasons for not paying the rent just now, Charlie just walks off very calmly, comes back with a broom. He's just about to hit Alan. It goes black, and we hear Alan saying, ow. Not that I condone hitting Alan on the head with a stick, but it was a funny way to end things. And I really thoroughly enjoy this episode. I think it's a really strong episode, very funny. I love the fact that Jake maybe finally has a focus, even if he did burn Evelyn's kitchen down in the process. But nevertheless, really thoroughly enjoyed it. He smelled the ham. He got excited. It's definitely a pretty great episode of 2.5 Men. Before rewatching it, I probably never would have thought of this one if I were to name my top 5. But it's a contender. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a great episode. A real credit to the series. And ultimately one that I definitely really thoroughly enjoyed.